Hello and welcome to the Cameo Show. I'm your host, Cameo, and we are joined by my husband and co-host, Mr. Greg Braun.
I'm so happy to be here today.
I'm happy you're here too.
I've got a killer dad joke.
Good. Let's hear it.
I've got a great one. So, what did the baby computer call his father? Data. D-A-T-A. Data.
Very nice.
Come on.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes, dad jokes. Today we are talking about habit stacking. Habit stacking is doing one thing that produces the result that you want and then stacking it with the next thing that will produce the result that you want in an effort to hopefully stack some good habits and make it more of like a process for you, like just a natural thing that happens.
Yeah. Recently, I've noticed I enjoy when I work out, like when I get on the step mill, which is torture, but it's good for me, so I do it. It's good for the old ticker.
It is torture.
But when I do that, I have to watch a YouTube video of like a tutorial of how to do like some mixing with music or something that takes my mind away from what's happening. But it's not just nonsense. I'm actually learning something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
So I use that as an opportunity to, like, even if I'm lifting weights or something too, I'll put on a podcast about something educational. So it's kind of like that time for me is more than just what I'm doing for my physical body. It's also for my mindset and emotional health. And so it's kind of like it creates this window of time when it's like a really big injection of good stuff for Greg.
Yeah, and that's exactly what habit stacking is.
Yeah.
I have this book in my lap. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. He talks about habit stacking.
It literally is a game-changing book.
Game-changing book. I mean, good doesn't even describe how.
And he's a Columbus, Ohio
dude.
And he's an enormous figure in the
Thought leadership space. Yeah. This book is phenomenal. We bought like 50 copies of this book and gave them as gifts one year.
Yep.
And we still have like maybe 4 copies and I need to give them away, but they're like, I didn't have trouble finding this book to reference because they're everywhere in our house. It's that good. In his book, he talks about habit stacking being a special form of an implementation intention. So rather than pairing your habit with a particular time and location, you pair it with a current habit. So your current habit is, well, whichever one came first, chicken or the egg. I watch YouTube videos to help me learn about music production.
Mm-hmm.
And I also am now doing the step mill or treadmill or whatever the case may be. Well, I'm going to stack those two things together. Or maybe I'm going to watch my YouTube video and add a new habit to that that's good for me, like step mill, and do them together so that they're stickier, right? He has this little chart. The graph is that it's a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. Habit number 1. Then that leads to habit number 2. Which leads to habit number 3. When you're implementing new habits in your life, if you say, okay, in the morning, I drink a cup of coffee. Well, I'm going to do that already anyway. I'm going to pour my cup of coffee. And then one thing that I'd like to start doing in the morning as well is reading for 10 minutes or meditating. So after I pour my cup of coffee, then I'm going to read for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it creates this habit loop construct, this habit stacking. Which is really powerful because then you get into this habit, if I may.
We can't say habits one more time on this episode.
You get into this.
Don't say the H word.
Normal process.
Yeah.
Because you tie your desired behavior to something that you're already doing.
Yeah.
So it's not brand new. It's not cold.
Yep.
When it's cold, it's hard because then you're like, oh, I got to do this. I really want to make this happen. But when it's warm, because it's already happening next to something that you do and you enjoy and that gives you a reward already, you're more apt to do it.
And I'm not too proud to admit this, that sometimes I don't want to work out a lot of times. I'm always coming up with these excuses like, oh, this, that, I could do this. And one way that I've tricked myself into working out more is I always listen to a podcast when I work out. Usually like a Huberman Labs or something about health, or because I'm just really into that kind of stuff now.
Well,
So
because we're getting older and we have to
I'm
be.
trying to do everything I can.
Yeah,
know?
you said the other day, like when we were younger, working out was like number one priority vanity.
Yeah.
But now that's like last on the list
Yeah.
because as you get older, you're like, I need to keep moving.
Yeah.
Motion is lotion, and I've got to keep this body fluid so that I can continue to live a healthy life. So
right. It's now like life or death. You know,
right,
taking care of my
literally.
ticker. I wear this ring that monitors my. What are you laughing at?
Just our rings that tell us what we do right and wrong
Or
every
a
day.
ring. Is that,
Or a ring.
And it monitors where your heart health is, and I think that's so fascinating that I'm scared when it's right at my age, and it coincides with my activity level. So, been doing more stepper lately, and it's making my equivalent heart age lower, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is exciting because I'm seeing actual results from my glutes burning up, you know. But I mean, I'm not too proud to admit I don't like to, you know, I try to talk myself out of it sometimes, but step one for me is getting that podcast up on my phone. And then once I start listening to it, I just kind of mindlessly move to the gym and start my workout. It's hard to just cold go in there for me. You know what I mean? Like that's a habit for me, is like get what I'm going to listen to first, then just go in there and get to it, you know?
Yeah. See, and I work a little differently. Like I love to listen to podcasts, and sometimes I do while I'm working out for the same reason that you do. But I also like to listen to like hype music to keep me going. And like on the step mill, for example, it makes me go faster. Like I kind of end up going with the rhythm of the music, and I don't always have trouble getting in there. How do I describe this in a way of like stacking? I know how it works for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I want a sauna every day.
That's the treat. That's the dessert at the end.
Yeah. Like I want a sauna cold plunge whenever I can, usually toward the end of the day.
Yep.
Before I get in the sauna, I may as well work out, because I'm definitely not going to work out after the sauna because I'm going to be soaking wet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a habit stack that's subconsciously happening for me right now, is that like, okay, well, I want a sauna, so I'll go in and lift. Then I'll jump on the stepper, which gets me just as sweaty as the sauna, and then hop in the sauna, cold plunge, done. And it's like this whole process. It's this 1, 2, 3, 4 that happens for me. And usually it's driven by my desire to sit in the sauna and maybe listen to a podcast or read a book or whatever the case may be. Sometimes on that same note, like I'm not even maybe thinking that far ahead, but I think like I should go work out, and then I just make myself get up and go do it. And that's not about stacking habits. It's just a pro tip of like, if you think it and you can, just start. Because I told you the other day, like I'm thinking I should go work out. If I go in and start, I'm not going to stop. If I get started, I'm going to just keep going. And then that whole 1, 2, 3, 4 step process of lifting, step mill, sauna, cold plunge, like that's all going to happen as a result of me just going, okay, well, I thought it, so I'm going to get up and go do it, even if I don't want to.
Yeah.
The hardest part is deciding to do it.
Another thing is having, you know, habit stacking in kind of a routine of like stretching. So something that I don't really ever talk about or hear people talk about much, but I feel like it's really been beneficial for me, is stretching almost every day.
Yeah.
You know, whenever I have an opportunity, sometimes a couple times a day.
I think the other day you stretched like 4 or 5 times. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, stretching.
But
a few hours later, what are you doing? Stretching.
I'm not flexible. I'm not flexible. And I've, you know, maybe I'm not doing it right or something, but it just feels good when I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not
well, Adrienne has taught you, right? Over the last 10 years, yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. If you haven't tried yoga or you don't want to try yoga, do it anyway, because she makes it just.
Don't be scared of it.
Don't be scared of the word yoga.
Of it. It's
just stretching.
It's just stretching.
But if she's taught you anything, it's not about doing it right. It's not about being flexible. It's about finding what feels good.
Yep.
And it's so true, because at the end of the day, you can sit down and he stretches every night before bed. I get in bed and just scroll on my phone. We call it have a cigarette because it's as addictive as cigarettes. But you stretch every night, and it's like, you know, you're going to get in bed.
Yeah.
It's part of your habit stack. It's what you do. It's like a routine, a ritual that you have every night before bed. And women, we have them when we do our skincare, right? and it leads to a desired result. So if you're going to do your skincare anyway, what's something else that you can tie to that routine? Is it a guided meditation or some type of podcast that you can listen to while you're doing your skincare routine? That's habit stacking.
Yep.
I want to implement this new habit. I'm going to tie it to something that I'm already doing that's giving me the pleasure or the result that I want. And this will only compound that.
Yep.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And it's not just related to physical things, or it could be related to anything.
This time of year, the beginning of the year, everyone's talking about, New Year's resolutions and new goals and things like that. That's a lot to do with the systems and the habits that you have. Not necessarily maybe like your goal might be to do this one thing or to have a 6-pack or whatever, tangible thing, but it's all about the systems that you're going to use to get there. And I mean, that's where you have to really investigate and see, to do these things successfully, they have to be kind of attached and grouped together.
That's right.
To remain, like you said, sticky and sustainable.
That's right.
Because I don't know what it's called now when I go into the gym and work out, because it's like a workout for my mind, a workout for my body, and I get to relax in the sauna. It's like, what am I really doing?
Wellness.
It's health and wellness, and we joke about it all the time. But before bed, I do stretch every night. I've got a roller. I've got a thing.
We joke because he has a whole ass health and wellness section in his bedside table. All the things.
Everything.
Cupping, bands, oils and ointments, rollers, thumpers, what's it called? The Theragun, blocks, bricks, mats, you name it. This one has it. And he uses them all. And it's part of his thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of the bedtime process,
Yeah. And you're right. Like, you get really granular. And this is kind of dipping into that goal setting conversation. But when you have a big goal, start with a ridiculously big goal and back it up and decide, like, what are the things that I need to do on a really granular level to compound that, to get to that really big goal. And those small habits are easier to make part of your daily routine or make part of your life in a successful way when they're grouped together. But usually achieving that big goal comes down to the consistency then of the systems or the habits or the stack or ritual or whatever you want to call it that you put in place on a regular basis. People aren't successful because they are extra great at something usually. They're successful because they've just become extra great at being consistent.
And they just don't quit.
In the practice, yeah.
They pivot, but they just don't quit.
That's right. So as you're exploring what new habits you want to bring with you into this new year, because we're still kind of in that first month of the year transitional period where we're getting back into the groove of things, think about what you can pair with what you already do to make it easier on you to remember to do it, to make sure that you do it, to show up for yourself, to be consistent in achieving whatever that larger goal is, what your why is at the end of the day, that you want to implement these habits in the first place. I know it works because James Clear said it does. There's evidence that it does. There's all kinds of reading, and I know it's worked for us as well. So it probably will work for you too.
Just a quick thought here too. You've got the book. If you're not a big reader, check it out on audiobooks, and you can make that part of your habit when you're driving in the car. Were you going to say that?
No,
okay.
But I like that.
Well,
great job.
I mean, a great takeaway, if you don't take anything else from this episode, that's a great takeaway, is use that time in your car on purpose. Because if you think about, if you drive a half hour to work and from, that's an hour a day. Instead of listening to music, you might as well take in some good teachings from great minds and do the math on it. Zoom out over the year if you do that all year long.
How many books would you listen to? How much information?
Yeah.
What kind of university education would you have within the confines of your drive time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Tiny Changes, Remarkable Results, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Tiny Change, listening to this on audiobook. Look at us pumping his book. No affiliation, just big fans.
Just big fans.
So Tiny Change, listen to it while you're driving. Remarkable results, I would almost guarantee. Build good habits, break bad ones. Another habit you can implement while you're driving is to listen to the Cameo show. We have new episodes every Wednesday. Shameless plug.
We'd love to hear from you too. If there's any ideas for new episodes or any feedback on old episodes, let
Or
us
any
know.
habit stacking that's worked for you that maybe, is outside of the norm that might help someone else. That's what this is all about. Sharing experiences, the human emotion, the human experience, because we're all just going through it. We're all just trying to figure out what are ways that I can show up better in my life so I can show up better in the people I love's life. And at the end of the day, it comes down to seeing what works for others. And if you don't know, you don't know. So if you know better, you do better.
And if you know better, you do better. You're right. You know where I learned to listen to books in your car? Your mom. Your mom gave me a Zig Ziglar books on tape on sales. And before that, I had never done anything like that.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Way back in the day.
It's game-changing stuff. I mean, these little habits change it all.
That's right. Habit stacking, y'all. If you're new here, we hope you'll join us again. If you join us every week, thanks so much. It means the world to us. We'll see you next time.